We are looking to share an eclectic mix of topics and interests directly from our local communities of color that present opportunities for meaningful dialogues. People are yearning for different stories from diverse voices, topics not covered extensively in our local media outlets. To ensure new points of views are being heard, we continue to share these stories on a large-scale platform. We seek to educate, we look to motivate, and we want our voices to amplify.
Welcome to an all-new episode of According to Man. As always, I'm your host, your favorite culture brother, L Boogie. Hey, it's LB, tuning in live from WTC 88.1 FM. Peace and blessings to the partnership between WTC and RISE Chattanooga. As always, this is being brought to you under the Amplify umbrella. Hey, happy belated New Year to everyone. I missed my listeners, and I hope you missed me. I had a wonderful holiday, and now we're back in the saddle, geared up to get right back to work. So thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. I'm really excited, about this time of year, and just can't wait to take you guys on this wonderful journey with your captain, LB. So it's Black History Month. And so for a lot of people, you hear like Black History Month and some people cringe. Some people they get super amped up. Like I'm a little bit of everything. And the reason I'm a little bit of everything is because I've had a lot of experiences in my life. And so I figured what better way than to give my listeners another sneak peek inside LB's world. So today's episode is going to be all about LB and his Black History Month journey. And so when you hear that, a lot of people are like, oh, well, what do you mean his journey? And so I think about my earliest memories of Black History Month. And it really started in elementary that I can recall. So you remember in elementary, they would have like those, what do they call them? Like bulletin boards. So they had like the bulletin boards. And so, like every month or season or whatever, like the teachers would go and they change the construction paper, whatever they use. They changed the background and they swapped the border out. And so I remember I would be in the lunch line or whatever line, you had to be, what they say, single file line. You had to be, in the single file line, when you kind of, in what they call it, grade school. And so I remember when Black History Month would come around, they would change the bulletin board and then you'd have like these, they'd have like these paper like cutouts of different like historical Black figures, and it would have like their name and kind of like a description of, what they were kind of, or what the significance of them or just, maybe facts about, who they were and what they were to the world. And so I remember I would look up at those and, honestly, like every year it'd be like the same 6 or 7 individuals. And so after a while, like even as a child, I'm pretty inquisitive and I'm like, okay, I want to know more. And I think at the same time, though, you have to remember, like, we're talking about really, really young kids, like I said, grade school. So, it's as far as like probably exposing us to too much, like, it's what is it? It's like the whole thimble bucket theory. Like, hey, know when you got a thimble, know when you got a bucket, don't overload them with information. And so that's like the first thing I remember about it. I didn't really understand like the true significance of it. Because like I said, I was a kid. So, but I did appreciate the fact that, it was highlighted, it was mentioned. But like I said, I have an insatiable nature sometimes. And so my insatiable nature for, understanding different perspectives, but then also like, I like to look at all pieces of the puzzle. Like the picture don't make sense to me unless I, can kind of dissect it and understand the different facets of it. And so LB's Black History Month journey continues. So now we move on. We're like middle school. So, middle school, 12, 13, 14, kind of around that age. And I remember now, we're being tasked with writing like essays. And so basically researching historical events that have happened in the Black and brown community, researching historical individuals that have contributed to not just the Black and brown community, but to our overall community as a whole. And so I remember like writing those essays, and it was like the easy route was like, okay, I'm just gonna do like a quick little biography on whoever, and it just became really like mundane to me. Like it became like a task, but I still hadn't really fully understood like the significance, and really the significance to me in regards to it. And then as I continue to transition to high school, now I'm getting older and I'm starting to look at things differently. And like there was a turning point in my life. I never will forget this moment. I never will forget where I was at, how I felt. And it all kind of centered around Birmingham, Alabama. So for those of you, that may not be familiar, let me give you a quick reminder. So September 15th, 1963. I remember that date. And I remember that date because that's the date where 5 young Black girls were getting ready for Youth Day at their church in Birmingham, Alabama. And it was just a Youth Day, I think, started probably around like 11 a.m. And these were very young girls. They were like, I think one was like 14. I think the other 4 were 11. And there was a bombing at this church that morning before church service. And the little girls were down in the basement, and the bomb was placed under the front steps of the church. 16th Street Baptist Church, if that may ring a bell to a lot of people. And in that explosion, 4 of those 5 little girls died. The 5th little girl lost vision in one of her eyes. So, you talk about the moniker, never seeing the world the same again. Yeah, that's true in multiple regards. And for those of you that, may not be old enough to remember, Birmingham used to have the hideous and kind of disgusting name. Like they used to have the moniker Bombingham because they became somewhat common occurrences. And for a lot of people, it's like, whoa, like this is it's getting dark here, LB. Actually, it's getting light here. We're shedding light on some of the darker things that happen. And so the reason I bring this up is that incident at the 16th Street Baptist Church, like I said, happened in 1963. Well, we know shortly after that, 1964, Civil Rights Act is passed. So, what's the Civil Rights Act? Hey, this is a free LB history lesson. Take notes. So Civil Rights Act basically outlawed discrimination, and it was really based upon, color, race, sex, religion, national origin, it kind of laid out being able to have like equal access to like public places, employment, and really kind of desegregating schools in addition to the right to vote. So a lot of things compacted in there. And it's crazy because sometimes you hear things and you're like, wait, an act had to be passed for those things to be, those things were not in place. And then of course we know the Civil Rights Act didn't end, discrimination. But I'm just, trying to, kind of give you the premise for, what kind of really just like totally, like my whole outlook on like Black History Month, like totally changed. Like, and I'll be honest, like there's a lot of people like, ooh, I don't even like Black History Month. Like I feel like there shouldn't just be, and I will say this, disclaimer, I'm not saying that Black history is only important and should only be discussed, researched, reviewed, during this identified month. But what I am saying is I didn't develop why it was significant to me until I started to learn about, the bombing that happened at the 16th Street Baptist Church. So we're still on LB's journey. Stay with me. And I'm in high school now, and I think I'm probably like maybe 16. And I'm a part of a youth organization that is going to take us on a field trip. And so they're taking us to the Institute in Birmingham, which is like right across the street from the 16th Street Baptist Church where the bombing occurred. And I'll be honest, my mindset was kind of like, well, wait, I get to get out of school to go on this trip? I'm going. Like, I'll be honest, like that's, look, just speaking from the mind of an adolescent, I'm like, oh yeah, if I don't have to go to school, oh yeah, I'm going on this field trip. And I had no idea that this field trip would change me for the rest of my life. The way I looked at things, the way I thought about things, everything about me changed in this one single trip. And so we go with this youth organization down to Birmingham, and we go to this Civil Rights Institute. And I remember getting there. I remember walking up the front steps, and it was kind of cold, just the time of year. And we go in, and they're kind of giving us the rundown. Here's how things are going to work. Boop, boop, boop. And they tell us that, they're going to take us through the museum. But the museum is like, you're going to be guided by like audio. So they gave us all these individual like headsets and like these like sound boxes where you could adjust like your volume on it. And so, you put your headset on, you clip your little volume, to your pants or belt buckle or whatever. In today's age, we would have had to get the wipes and sanitize them and everything. But, so we put the headsets on. And so the headsets are actually kind of like, they're the narration for us. And we're going through this civil rights like exhibit. And so it's taking us through different periods, different situations. And I'm actually like, I'm pausing because in my mind, like I'm actually like, I can see myself back in this place. And so we're going through this exhibit, and you're hearing like this audio that is basically describing like these racial incidents that are occurring in Birmingham. And so there's one instance where there's like a protest, and it's basically calling for like just equal access to like public places. Like, we'll say it's a diner. We'll use something very simple. And the audio on there is a woman that says, "We deserve the right to eat here too." And it's crazy that I remember this audio because this was many moons ago. I'm not going to say how many years, but this was a very long time ago. And I remember the woman said, "We deserve the right to eat here too." And there's a male voice, that yells back and says, "You don't even deserve the right to live." And it stuck with me. And of all the moments like in my life, like that was like a moment where like an unfortunate light bulb went off for me. I was like, wait, whoa, this is like polarizing. And the further I got through the exhibit, the more like my perspective just changed. Like before it was a task in school. Now it had become, okay, wait, my inquisitive, nature began to ask more and more questions. And so we get to a part of the exhibit, and this is the part of the exhibit that I remember like at 16, vividly remember this. I remember being very shaken, and there was a jail cell door, and it was like, this is the actual cell door that a famous civil rights activist was locked up on. And so I remember taking my hands, and I placed my hand like in the opening on the door, like, and I was just thinking like, he had his, I had like a surreal moment. I was like, he had his hands right here. Like, sometimes you have like just those moments where you're kind of like in awe. And I was a little bit taken back by looking at this jail door, and I'm touching these steel bars. And this was an actual jail cell door from a time that Dr. Martin Luther King was arrested. And, just going through like just this array of emotions and things, like And I looked around, like I said, we all had headsets on. So I didn't know if like the other kids were like, were they feeling, some type of way, the same way that I was, was LB just kind of, having a moment. I didn't really know how to describe it. And we get to the end of the exhibit, and I'm one of the last kids to come out of the exhibit because I took my time. Like normally I'd have blew through this exhibit, been back on the bus, cracking jokes with the other kids, but I really took my time going through this exhibit. And I remember walking outside, coming down those same steps that we had entered, and there was a guy that was there, and he was older than me. And I think he was if I was 16, he was probably 18, and he was, God rest his soul. He's no longer here with us. But, there's certain people you remember things about him. I remember two things about him. I remember his smile, and I remember his comfort on that day for me. And so we come out and we come down the steps and we're getting ready to approach the bus. And I don't realize it at the time, but I'm visibly shaking. Okay, I'll put it out there. I'm not listening. I'm very in touch with my emotional side. Yeah, I think that's the first time that my emotions got the best of me when looking at just a historical recap or review of the history involving civil rights and African Americans. And so I remember this guy, he put his hand on my shoulder, and I looked up at him because he was a little bit taller than me, and he was crying. And I didn't say a word, and he didn't say a word to me. He just put his hand on my shoulder, and he tapped me like just a couple times on my back, and he kind of pushed me in front of him like, get on the bus. And I remember getting on the bus, and I glanced over at the church, and I realized that you don't have to be directly involved with something for there to be a level of importance and significance to it. And so that's just a quick recap of LB's Black History Month journey. So this year, the national theme for Black History Month is Black Resistance. And so each year there's a national theme that is presented for Black History Month. And so Black Resistance is more like just historically Black and brown people dealing with, ongoing oppression and really trying to find ways to kind of fight through like that trauma. And one of the ways that a lot of people have been able to do it is you hear this phrase, you heard it before. You hear Black joy. You hear that? You heard people say that. You heard people say a Black boy joy, Black girl joy. You hear all types of versions of it. And it's really just anything that really inspires support, kind of uplifts. It can be very simple things. Let me tell you something. I get excited about the simplest things. In my neighborhood, LB, born and raised, South Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I remember anytime that there was an upgrade or something new, I was excited. When they put in new public transportation bus stops, I was like, oh yeah, look at us making moves. I was always elated for progressive development in the community. And those are things that just, I just always find, what they say, you're always trying to work to find that silver lining in things. And so I think that's been kind of a common theme. And I can't stress enough, like, this is LB telling you. So look, some people might get mad. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm not telling you, you should get out here and you should research and you should learn about things during Black History Month. I feel like you should learn about things any and every time that you have an inkling that you want to know something. You don't have to wait until February and these what are these days? 28 days in February. Well, not leap year, but anyway, you don't have to wait for that time frame. Like, I think it's very important that we just ensure that we find the significance and the importance for us. Because see, history is this. See, I did real good in history. I had a history class in Memphis. I'm gonna tell you this story real quick and then I'll shut up. Well, probably not. But anyway, so I had a history professor, and as oxymoronic as it sounds, his name was Professor White. Go figure. And so absolutely true story. And I remember one day he came to me and he said, "Hey, you do really well. You ever thought about changing your major to history?" And I was like, "No, not at all." And I hadn't. No disrespect to him or to any history buffs. But at the time, history was just understanding when something happened, who was involved in it, where did it happen, and what was the significance of it. Like, that's all I was worried about, but I didn't realize how important that significant piece would be on my outlook and my perspective of the world that we currently live in. And so, I just want to inspire people to, take the opportunity to look at things from, alternative perspectives. It's easy to say, well, I mean, it's not like you had to deal with it, LB. There's a lot of things that we didn't personally deal with that we're passionate and we care about. There's a lot of people that are passionate about Pearl Harbor that were not directly affected by Pearl Harbor because they weren't alive. It does not decrease the value and the investment that they have from an emotional standpoint in it. So I'm very excited for this year's Black History Month, and just excited as a whole. Like I said, I'm really excited to be back. Can't wait. We got a lot of things coming down the pike, and there's a lot of things going on here locally. So for those of you who may not be aware, the Urban League of Chattanooga has a young professionals organization. I salute the Urban League and its young professionals organization because at one point in time, I was a part of this organization. But they actually have upcoming next week. It's called Join Week. And so for those of you that may not be familiar, like I said, the Urban League of Chattanooga's Young Professional Group is a group of Black and brown young professionals that really are just kind of like a melting pot of individuals from all walks of life, all types of professions. And they have several events that they have going on. So Join Week begins next week. Like I said, I'm very excited about it. And Join Week is actually right now we've got 3 days worth of events scheduled. And you can go to ulchat.net. That's ulchat.net to find out about these events. And so I'll give you a quick rundown of them. So like I said, there's 3 days of the schedule, February 7th, 9th, and 11th. February 7th at the Urban League office, they're going to have an event called Linked Up on LinkedIn. And so this is where you're able to come and kind of share with individuals about how to brand yourself, how to brand your business. But then also there's another piece to it. So like I said, Linked Up and LinkedIn. And so they're going to offer the ability to be able to get some updated headshots. Let me tell you how important headshots are. First of all, for someone like myself, I need to get me an updated headshot because, my last headshot, I had hair. And this time around is not the case. But it's just, I think it's very important to understand just, like you said, not just branding your business, but also how to brand yourself. So they're going to be offering headshots. I think there's an additional fee for it. I think it's probably like $25 or something. But like I said, check out ulchat.net to go register for this event. On February 9th, they have an event called Meet Your Match. And so this is like speed networking. So for those of you who may not be familiar, see, I haven't done speed networking. I did speed dating before. I like speed dating. I don't need, but give me 2 minutes. I know what I need to know. I can tell, ask the right questions up front. And so this is going to be at the Moxie Chattanooga. And just so you're aware, all of these events are going to be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at night. And so this is February 9th at the Moxie Chattanooga. Meet Your Match is a speed networking event. Please bring your business cards. For those that may be like me, you have a virtual business card. I got a dot card. I love it. People can simply scan my card. It gives them all of my information. So, plan to show up. It's always great to build upon, the circle of influences that you have. And then finally on February 11th, they have a dinner and dialogue. And so this is going to be, from 6 to 8 p.m. Like I said, this is going to be a 618 restaurant and lounge. And you can bring friends, come out and converse. You can discuss community, social, personal views. Really excited about this offering from the Urban League of Chattanooga's Young Professional Group. And like I said, to register, please register. Head count is important. Please go to ulchat.net. Very excited about these events. I'm going to definitely do my best to attend, if not all, but definitely some of these events. So please go check the website out, get registered for it. It's an exciting time right now for the Urban League's Young Professional Group. And then we've got what you came here for. You came here for what I quickly become known for. It is now time for another segment of Dear LB. Hey, so for those of you who may be first-time listeners, Dear LB is basically my viewpoint on or listener questions that come in. So listeners will reach out to me and they'll provide me scenarios, things that they're going through. I promise to keep them anonymous. And Dear LB is like the B12 version of Dear Abby, just cranked up a little bit. So to jump right into Dear LB, our first question says, my child doesn't take school seriously. I punish him and nothing works. I need help. Well, you know what? See, sometimes things are aligned for a reason. Like I've been kind of dealing with some school issues. And the first thing I'll say is this. So you said that your child doesn't take school seriously and that you punish him, but nothing works. So see, you didn't say a lot, but there's a lot in there. See, you said you punish him and nothing works. You know why? Because he don't take your punishment seriously. You know why he don't take your punishment seriously? Because we haven't identified what he's serious about. So I can't tell you, listen here, let me give my disclaimer, because I am not certified, licensed. I'm not an expert. I'm just simply giving you my viewpoint. You ask me, I'm telling you. So I would say this, the first step I would start with is, okay, you know what he doesn't take seriously, but what does he take seriously? Start there. Everybody's not going to be elated with school. I'm going to tell you this. LB wasn't elated with school. Like, school is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. LB say you don't need. I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. I said I was not elated with school. I understood the necessity behind it. But, at the same time, like, it became a little mundane for me. And so I don't know how old your child is. It could be that. But I will say this. Figure out what it is that your child is serious and passionate about. Like, sometimes we channel so much energy into saying, hey, this is the path that I want you to go down. And that might be a path that your child don't want to travel at all. Hell, maybe you weren't serious about school. Who knows? When you say you need help, everybody needs help. Parenting is a heck of a job. A heck, H-E-C-K. All of those letters are capitalized. It is a heck of a job. I think creating dialogue goes a very long way, like just being open to, and asking them. But then also, something I had to do with one of my nephews was I had to really illustrate the importance of it. So this was me as a child. I always wanted to know how I could use what I learned in my everyday life, in quote unquote, the real world. That was always my question, my thought. And so maybe that's what you have to do. That's what I had to start doing with my nephew, was I had to give him real world examples of how this math applied to the real world, how these science concepts applied to the real world, and what happens is I'll be honest, I just wanted to kind of hope he got an understanding for why these things were essential, but it lit a fire in him. And so, I think everybody's not going to be great in school. Don't just shoot him down because, that's not, what he's levitating to, figure out, what it is. Because I tell you right now, here, there's a little boy, what's his name? There's a young man that does YouTube. I'm not going to say his name because he's a kid. And, my nephew has his bed sheets, and I looked at him and I said, oh, that's such and such. And my nephew was like, how do you know him? I was like, he's a big YouTube star. He was like, oh, I didn't think you would know that. I was like, yeah. Now this kid is about 9 years old, and this kid is worth about 9 figures. End the conversation. So anyway, I hope that helps you. Thank you for reaching out. But like I said, I think start with the dialogue, and don't let the dialogue always just be a negative one. I know it's easy to say, oh, I feel like you're not trying and you don't care and whoop, whoop, whoop. Like when conversing, even with kids, you have to find balancing between responding and listening. All right. Second question for Dear LB says, I always wish I had grown up in better conditions. Oh, okay. What would you have changed about your childhood, LB? Whew. What would I have changed? My tax bracket? No. You know what? This is gonna be the most cliche thing I probably never said. I never thought about changing my conditions. I never thought about, I wish I had this when I grew up. I wish I had that. Like, the things that I wanted were so simple. Like, I'll tell you what I would do. Like, I was always like, my generation, video games hadn't become as popular as they were. So we were always outside as kids. I'll tell you this is a little LB tip. It took me a very long time to learn how to ride a bike. But anyway, but we were always outside playing games and things. And so I remember we didn't always have, I ain't gonna say always, I didn't. My mother was responsible. So she made sure that our necessities were taken care of, but a lot of the leisure things we didn't always have. And so I remember we'd be at school, and I remember we would have like objects in like gym class. And if they were like damaged or broke, and they were like, we got to get rid of this, we got to get a new one. I remember one time we were playing baseball at school, and the bat broke. And I asked the teacher, could I have it? And she was like, it's broke. You know, that wood you could hurt yourself. And I was like, well, me and, my cousins, we play baseball in the neighborhood, and we don't have a bat. And she was like, but it's broke. And I was like, but I can use it. She's like, you can't hold the handle. I said, I can tape it up. And she was like, you really want the bat? And I was like, yes. And she gave me the bat, and I went home, and I got that old, that great duct tape, that great tape you get at the hardware store. So I'd use that tape, and I taped this bat up, and that's what we used to play baseball. And then there was another time where I found a milk crate actually on the side of the street, like it was like in a ditch or something. And I went home, and I remember I got the hammer, and I knocked the bottom of the milk crate out. And I remember taping it up, and we used the milk crate, and that was my first basketball rim. And so I just found ways to be I just used like ingenuity. And I think a lot of kids did. And so, yeah, everybody wants to say, and I wish we were rich and all that. We say that as adults. Let me tell you something. I knew the trouble that we got into without money. I can only imagine the trouble that I would have got into with money as a child. And even as an adult, I'm like, you know what? I want to hit that Mega Millions, but you ever notice when people be like, I hit the lottery, this is the first thing they say, and I'm wearing a costume to collect my money. You know why? Because they don't want the headaches that come with that money. So as much as, I could have been in better condition. I would have loved if we lived in a mansion and, we had, all these fancy cars. Hell, I'd have been happy if we had a car. But to be honest, for me, everything that I had and didn't have growing up really shaped my perspective and how I look at the world now. So I think everything's about angles and perspective. So there's a lot of things that I didn't have, but there was a lot of things that I had that you can never place value on. So thank you for your question. I appreciate that. Hey, like I said, thank you guys for tuning in as always. And just lastly, before I get out of here, just want to remind you that the Black and Brown Marketplace is still open and operating, 804 Central Avenue, owned and operated by RISE Chattanooga. Saturday and Sundays, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go by there, check out those different vendors. Please go to risechat.org to keep up with the latest series of events. And I just want to send my best out to everyone. There's a lot of things that have been going on recently in the news, and I'll tell you guys, it's just this quick thing that's on my mind before I get out of here today. Like I didn't know if I wanted to speak. No, I wanted to speak on it. I just didn't know what I was going to say. So I was in Walmart a couple days ago, and I had gotten off work, and my disposition was off. Like I felt it. Like, you ever be somewhere and you're so bothered by something that you can't see yourself, but things are just off. And so, I'm in here and this woman stops me, and I'm not really in the mood. I don't think I'm frowning or anything. And this woman stops me and she kind of politely places her hand on my shoulder. She has a face mask on. I'm like, yeah, back, give me 50 feet. And all she said was, "It's going to be okay." That's all she said. And she walks off. And I'm kind of like, what is she talking about? And I get what I need to get, and I go back out to the car, and I pull down like my visor, and I look in the mirror, and I see like this look of like disgust on my face. And what it was I had just finished like reading like a short article involving the police officers in Memphis, Tennessee, and an issue that took the life of a young African-American man due to a stop. I don't even like saying like, oh, it was a stop that went wrong. Oh, no. But that's a whole nother conversation. And honestly, I was just I'll be honest, like I went through like a myriad of emotions. I went from being angry to being hurt, to just kind of feeling of just like frustration and depression. Like I was really upset, and I just, and just kind of listening to the details. This gentleman was less than 100 yards from his mom's house, and then I see the photos of the officers that are named in this, and I'll be honest, I look at them and it's polarizing, it's dramatic. I look at, these are all men that look like they could be me. And so I wanted to just give this reminder. Sometimes we get so caught up in what's black, what's brown, what's white. Let's get caught up in what's right and what's wrong. I don't care what color an individual is. Right and wrong are easy to identify. And so, I just want to send my best to, everyone, because, people deal with it. I have not watched the footage. I don't want to watch the footage. You know why I don't want to watch the footage? Because part of learning from past trauma is not wanting to repeat it. And if I keep putting negative things into me, all I'm going to conjure up is negative thoughts. So, it's heartbreaking. It's very frustrating. But, peace and blessings to the family. Peace and blessings to all of my listeners. Thank you guys for your continued support. This has been another episode of According to Man. For those of you who are not following me yet, you can follow me on Facebook at Lenward Lee Brackin Jr. You can go to my LinkedIn, Lenward Lee Brackin Jr. And you can find me on Instagram, all lowercase LL Brackin Jr. or all lowercase ATM_LB. This has been another episode of According to Man. I'm out.